takeoff for a Catalian event, something I've been looking forward to all day long. It just brings back all the glamour of those golden years of aviation, but together with tales of courage and bravery.
Oh, immense tales of courage and bravery. Here we are on an airfield from which 3 men flew during World War II on missions that were to see them awarded the Victoria Cross. Guy Gibson being one, 2 members of Handley Page Hamden squadrons, the others, well, 2 pilots flying Catalinas in World War II were themselves recipients of the VC. We recall Flying Officer John Cruikshank of number 210 Squadron and a member of the Royal Canadian Air Force, Flight Lieutenant David Hornell of number 162 Squadron, both of whom pressed home attacks against German U-boats in the face of very heavy fire. The story of Cruikshank is truly remarkable. He was hit in 72 places on his body. His navigator was killed, but the aircraft still made it back from the middle of the North Atlantic to land at Sullom Voe in the Shetland Islands. That flight took about 5 hours. Most of it was undertaken by the second pilot, who'd also been quite badly hurt. We had a very nice view there on that turn of the hull underside of the fuselage of the Catalina, a design developed in the run-up to the impending World War II. The US Navy had recognized that there might be threats, particularly from the Japanese in the Pacific. They wanted a new patrol bomber to help them counter those threats, and Consolidated came up with the successful design. It's a pure flying boat at that stage. This PBY 5A model, well, A stands for amphibian, as we've already seen, took off. It has a tricycle wheel undercarriage. They were used in almost all theatres of World War II, initially in the Pacific, but it was in the Battle of the Atlantic that the actions took place that I was just describing. There, the Catalina played a crucial part, not just in the conduct of the Battle of the Atlantic, but thus in the whole war effort as far as the Allies were concerned. And there we've seen the wingtip mounted floats being lowered. There was a very serious threat in the early stages of World War II to the ships engaged in the North Atlantic convoys that were so vital in keeping Britain resupplied with items brought across the North Atlantic. That threat was posed by German U-boats and by the Focke-Wulf FW-200 Condor maritime attack aircraft that supported them. They were operating in an area that was out of range of existing land-based aircraft. It became known as the Atlantic Gap. First, Catalinas, the flying boat, providing the answer to that conundrum, came into service with units in Northern Ireland during 1941, and it was only that May that they scored, as it were, their first major success when one of them spotted the German battleship Bismarck, a key element in its subsequent destruction by Fairey Swordfish of the Fleet Air Arm. But they had some major parts to play in the Pacific War after that as well. US Navy PBYs spotted the Japanese fleet making towards Midway, and it was a Kanso, a Canadian-built example, as indeed this aircraft appearing before us is, that spotted the Japanese invasion force heading for Ceylon. That action by the Catalina helped save the Royal Navy fleet in the Indian Ocean. This aircraft from plain sailing represents, through its colour scheme, a different aspect of the type's wartime use, because it's painted as a US Army Air Forces Catalina, an OA-10A, used as an air sea rescue aircraft towards the very closing stages of World War II. In fact, the Army Air Forces had wanted to get hold of the type before that, but such was the demand from the Navy and other operators that they weren't able to. The specific aeroplane depicted here was named Miss Pickup, and that nose arm has been faithfully recreated on the fuselage sides.
Put it on the floor, don't. Oh no, put it around here.
The aircraft that was originally named Miss Pickup was involved in a remarkable operation that began on the 30th of March 1945. It landed on the water off the Dutch coast while trying to rescue the pilot of a downed US Army Air Forces P-51 Mustang. But it found itself unable to take off again because the starboard engine had failed. So on the one good engine, they taxied the Catalina for 90 minutes to get it away from the Dutch coast. At midday the following day, Messerschmitt Me-262 jet fighters of the German Luftwaffe came along and shot up the aircraft, which the crew abandoned. They took to dinghies. That was on the 31st of March 1945. It took 4 days for them to all be successfully rescued. As it comes past there, you can see the very large fuselage side blister windows just behind that towering wing.
Dad.
They're in fact larger than the blisters on genuine wartime Catalinas, and these big ones, downsized ones, have been fitted basically to give a good view for those who travel along in the aeroplane.
It's a bit like sitting in a massive flying greenhouse, if you can picture that, and of course the result of a failed safari project. And it really is worthwhile. If you get the chance to visit, they often open the aircraft up at static displays. Very, very worthwhile going in. Superb visibility, a great way to see the countryside, and in the most superb aircraft.
It is. I discovered that on a short flight from Cambridge to Duxford a few years ago. Excellent views out, and a fascinating aircraft just to be in, not least the cockpit configuration, with the throttles, of course, not in the main body of the cockpit as you'd expect, but in the ceiling above you.
Absolutely. Not many aircraft, the most modern probably being the Twin Otter. Yeah. You can see I have a soft spot for this aircraft. I just think it just comes up so many emotions and the atmosphere, the real romance of the golden age of flying, but as I say, in reality, in military terms, such bravery and courage of its crews.
This one was built in Canada by the Canadian Vickers firm as a Canso. It served with the Royal Canadian Air Force. It was used, like so many of its brethren, as a water-dropping fire bomber. Then, after that service was concluded, came the idea that George was just mentioning of using it on African safaris. That fell through, and it was purchased by Catalina Aircraft Limited, who brought it to the UK for operation by plain sailing. It's a 20-strong shareholder group of owners that own the aeroplane, and in fact, I believe this October they're going to be holding an open day at their base at Duxford in Cambridgeshire for prospective new shareholders. You don't have to be a pilot to sign up for that. You can, if you wish, be a non-pilot who simply wants to be involved with such a beautiful aeroplane, and you do get the chance to accompany them if you so wish to air shows. It's proved an excellent way of keeping this aircraft flying, and they do go all over Europe with it. It's been right up to the far north of Norway inside the Arctic Circle. It's been to Iceland. It's been even to Russia to take part in the Russian Air Force's centenary celebrations. And a couple of years back, it undertook an expedition to Greenland with students from Worksop College. But here it is in rather more benign conditions. In fact, it didn't miss a single beat on that trip to Greenland, which saw a lot of flying off water, because this aircraft still operates off water, a real tribute to the maintenance and the care lavished upon it.
Oh, absolutely superb. And I was just thinking there as it flew past the evocative nature of the clouds here, very dark and stormy, just the sort of thing that you would love to see if you're one of those down pilots in the Atlantic, to see this marvellous airplane coming out of the stormy sky to get rescued at long last. Coming in now for a final approach, and ladies and gentlemen, plenty of crew on board here to show your appreciation
Not
to.
where?
Yes, the crew headed by the aircraft's Captain Derek Head, who is a former Royal Air Force Hercules and Andover transport pilot, and the co-pilot today is an Australian, Jeff Boyling. They're both amongst the shareholder members of the crew, and rather suitable that Jeff should be an Australian involved with this aircraft, because the Royal Australian Air Force flew more than 160 Catalinas themselves, including some very famous operations. Coming into land quite long, no need to have too long a ground taxi back to its spot on the apron. The PBY 5A Catalina.
Quite superb, yes. Just that comment there brought back memories of the operations in North America, where some of the airports are so large you actually got permission to air taxi from one